If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so honored today to have Elizabeth Thompson. She's the executive director of the Buckminster Fuller Challenge. Elizabeth, welcome to Green is Good.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, I'm a native New Yorker, and I'm going to fall right on the sword. I've never heard of Buckminster Fuller Challenge, any of this stuff. I know you're in Brooklyn. I grew up in Queens. Share with our listeners what you are doing and all the good work you're doing, because it's a lot of great work. Share what this challenge is about and what your institute's about and everything else.
Well, we, as an institute, we are focused on finding where the ideas that Bucky, sort of stood for and championed in his life are showing up today. What are the contemporary applications of Buckminster Fuller's ideas? Specifically, his approach to solving problems, which he called comprehensive anticipatory design science. We launched the Buckminster Fuller Challenge program, which is a $100,000 prize that is awarded annually to a solution that has the most likelihood of solving a major global problem. In 2007, to just accelerate our sort of search for the people who are really applying these kind of fundamental design principles to solving today's big problems.
Got it. And what separates, can we call Buckminster Fuller BFI here?
BFI is the acronym for the Buckminster Fuller Institute.
Okay, so
yeah.
And then this is the challenge. What separates this challenge from other prize programs and other great environmental or scientific challenges out there?
Well, there are a lot of things that we're doing that other programs like this are not. First of all, we are, as far as we know, the only large-scale prize, and by that I mean that we are awarding a prize that's at least $100,000, and that's what constitutes a large-scale prize program. We're the only ones that are awarding an approach, a thinking process, a process to solving major global problems. We also don't determine the problem that's in need of a solution, like other competitions and prize programs. Even in the environmental sector, put a stake in the ground and say, okay, we want to solve, the clean water issue on the planet. We don't do that. In our call for proposals, the applicants need to make a compelling case as to why the problem that they are addressing is a key leverage point in the global systems. In other words, if this particular problem is solved, for example, restoring the world's soils, investing in women's ability to earn an income, designing new urban transportation systems, things like that, that if that issue is solved in a comprehensive way, it will have the effect of solving many other symptomatic issues at the same time. So that's a sort of comprehensive approach, solving multiple problems simultaneously, that we are really championing. We're unique in that we're interested in solutions that are, getting at the root cause of our global problems, not sort of solving the symptoms. We're interested in solving the root causes. And our criteria for a winning solution is, as far as we know in our research, is the only one that sort of systematically unpacks the underlying principles which inform what we call whole system solutions. So in those ways we're very different. We are very proud to have recently been named by Metropolis Magazine the Socially Responsible Design's highest award. And, we're hoping that the approach that we're taking encourages other enterprises that are focused on, innovative solutions to pick up this approach. That it would be fantastic if there were more prizes awarding as systems-based solutions.
Well, you have a great website here, and for our listeners out there, if you have your iPad in front of you, your laptop, and your desktop, you got to go to their website because Mike and I are on it right now, and it is great. It's http not dot, but it's semicolon / challenge.bfi.org, and it is a really, really great website here. And I'm just right now looking at your winners from last year, and I mean this is fascinating. So for our listeners out there, how many people apply for this? Because this is really, stuff of science and social behavior and everything else and design. And so how many entries do you get a year? And, what do the jurors look for when reviewing the entries to this great challenge?
Yeah. Well, we get hundreds of entries from all over the world every year, we go through an internal review process here with our staff and our team of advisors, and we winnow the pool down to those that are really, truly meeting the criteria. That becomes a pool of between 20 and 30 entries. Those then go to the jury, and they have the unenviable task of choosing between fantastic ideas that are solving all these, interrelated but different problems. So when they're reviewing an entry, and when we're reviewing them in the first couple of rounds, we look first at the approach. How is the team or the individual thinking about the overall context within which their solution is situated? We ask specifically in the application, what is the preferred state for the future that they are seeking to create if their solution is fully implemented. That's an approach that was really specific to Buckminster Fuller. He started in thinking about solutions from an unencumbered vision about what the future might look like in its most positive form, and then charted a critical path, as he called it, sort of to get there. So we push the applicants to really think in that way. So we're looking at how they're thinking. We look to see whether it's a really comprehensive solution, whether it's globally applicable, but really specific to a local area in terms of its first prototype and implementation. As I mentioned earlier, is it solving multiple problems simultaneously? Is it anticipatory? Is it going to create new unforeseen problems down the road, or have they thought that through? Is it what Fuller called, doing more with less? In other words, are ecological principles, this notion of ecological responsibility, sort of at the heart of the design thinking and the solution. It's really important to us that the solution has been verified, that the claims that it's making have stood up already and will continue to stand up to rigorous analysis. What's the team like? Are they qualified? Are they capable of implementing the vision that they're putting forth? One last thing that we really look for is we pose the question of is this solution what Fuller called a trim tab, which is a nautical term that he used, which refers to a tiny section of the rudder of a large seagoing vessel that is deceptively sort of small relative to the scale of the ship that it's turning around. And we're looking to see whether these solutions, while potentially deceptively small in terms of the scale of the problem, can have the effect, if fully implemented, of turning the ship of the problem around in a new direction. So it's not these projects that make it to the semifinalist round have really gone through a very rigorous vetting process.
I gotcha.
That we see is pretty unique.
So when do the entries start coming in? Like, what's the beginning date, and then what's your cutoff date on entries?
They come in end of August, early September, and our cutoff dates have usually been, the past few years, end of October, early November, and then we have a 6 to 7 month review and vetting process.
So I see this list here on your website, and again, for our folks out there with your electronics in front of you, your iPad, your laptop, it's http://challenge.bfi.org, and so this list that you have is of semifinalists is mind blowing, frankly. And I mean, and then how many winners are chosen off of this list?
The semifinalists, this year we had 21, and that will, the jury is in the process right now of reviewing all of them. They will then select a group of between 4 and 6 finalists, and then pick a winner, a runner-up, and up to 2 honorable mentions.
Okay, so and when is that announced?
It's announced at a conferring ceremony in New York on June 10th.
Got it. So
we would invite all of your listeners to attend.
Oh, that's wonderful. Where in New York?
It's going to be at the CUNY Graduate Center.
Got it. Okay, so now this is it's too long of a list to read all of them and to read the. But it is. I've read them all, and it's truly impressive. So let's talk about though general principles here, patterns or trends in the semifinalist pool. What are the patterns and trends that you're seeing that people are gravitating towards in terms of solving the greater issues out there?
Well, we've been seeing, a persistent trend of solutions focused for. There are urban solutions in the developed world. We've seen an interesting crop of solutions, for example, come out of the city of Chicago, and we've seen that those have come as a result of the city of Chicago's bid for the 2012 Olympics. That really stimulated in the sort of creative minds in that city, very, very interesting visions for the future of that city, and the visions that we see are prototypes for what might be able to be possible in cities throughout the United States. So that's one thing that we've continued to see. This year again we have a crop of entries that are sort of responding to the failures or scandals to some extent of the microloan movement in the developing world. There's are 2 entries actually I think that are semifinalists this year that are taking on that kind of micro financial movement and coming up with new ways to get much needed resources in the hands of women, primarily in the developing world. We've also seen a number of really interesting entries this year that are focused on sustainable community development strategies, mostly for rural areas, and we've also seen some entries that are providing really interesting integrated models for addressing water and basic sanitation issues that are applicable to the sort of massive slum developments in India and other places in the world. It's a really interesting crop, and we're starting to hear from our jurors that are saying, "Help! How am I going to eliminate?" Half, if not more, of these projects to become finalists. They're having a hard time.
That is so amazing. I mean, all of the issues that you're speaking of just sound like, wow. I wish all of them could get the same love and attention and nurturing that they need, because truly, they all are answers to huge voids that we have today in the world social marketplace.
Well, this radio interview is one of the things that we are, we're very grateful to have the opportunity for. One project wins the challenge, but we are making the effort that we're making in a small organization on a very small budget to try to shed light on as many of these projects as we possibly can and encourage people to find out about them and support them. Money is always very, very useful, but these projects need support across the board. So, if there are things that inspire your viewers, we have a section on our website called the Idea Index, where each entry from the last 4 years of the challenge, there's over 700 of them, are posted there with updates and information about each of the projects and with contact information, et cetera. So we just encourage people to check it out and contact these people if they're interested in helping.
That's a great, you know what? That is just a wonderful way of connecting ideas with hopefully social, monetary, and resources that some of these ideas need to get going.
Yeah.
Wonderful idea. Talk about a little bit about these great people, because obviously you've had a chance to either meet them or get to know them somehow. Who are, what is the demographic of these very bright and sometimes probably very brilliant folks that are entering this challenge?
They come from all over the world. The issues that they're addressing are issues affecting the world over. It's a very interesting cross-section of people. Many of the entries are submitted by teams that are comprised of sort of an interdisciplinary group. So they are modeling an approach to solving problems, this kind of cross-disciplinary approach that we think is really important. They are artists, they're scientists, they're designers, they're social entrepreneurs, they're inventors, they're cultural anthropologists. They're what Buckminster Fuller called evolutionary strategists. They're thinking about where we're going in the future and what kind of design solutions are anticipating that future. It really is an amazing mix of people. I think the one thing they have in common is they are really demonstrating this idea that Fuller did in his own life of, what can the inspired individual do on behalf of their fellow humans. These people are not waiting around for the political systems, the large intergovernmental agencies, the global corporations to take on the major problems of the day. They're seeing a need and doing what they can to respond to it.
So let's talk about a little bit of the fun stuff here. So the winners are announced.
Yeah.
What happens to the winners after? How does it change the winners? How does it give velocity to their ideas and to their entries? What happens? Because now you have some history here.
Yeah.
What's typical?
Well, they as you said, the announcement is made. They receive some funds. We do everything we can to attract the international media and press to the conferring ceremony and to spreading the word about the winner's work. And as the program has grown, and it is sort of growing in its prestige, we are learning that it's helping to open doors for people. It confers a sort of important level of validation that's beginning to increase the winner's ability to attract other support and attention and resources. Alan Savory, who was last year's winner for a project that is based in Africa, has shared with us that he's just been overwhelmed by how much winning the prize has done for his work in the last year. He's been at it for 40 years and writing books, doing lectures all over the world, writing peer-reviewed articles. He has an unbelievable proof of concept, and the timing was just right for him to win this prize. It's blown open a lot of doors for him, and we're very grateful to that. So I think that the $100,000 is important, but I think of much greater value is the exposure that and the validation that winning this prize is able to give to these projects.
Elizabeth, can you just share with our listeners a little bit more about Buckminster Fuller and his vision and how this whole challenge reflects his vision greatly?
Well, Buckminster Fuller was 20th century visionary. He was compared often to Leonardo da Vinci, and he was one of the first truly global systems thinker, and he had a vision for the world that based on an analysis of real data about the resources at hand, that we as a global civilization have the option to make it, and we can do so through a design revolution. He called it a design science revolution, a comprehensive anticipatory design science revolution. He put forward in 1961, actually, a sort of challenge to the youth of the world to design solutions to the world's pressing problems. He felt that it could be done with current technology within a 10-year period. So he was a brilliant, inspired, very positive visionary who was espousing a path toward solving our pressing problems, many years ago. I think his ideas were very prescient, and the world is just now sort of catching up to them. And we have even more technology now to make what he saw possible really happen.
Well, Elizabeth, I was really impressed with Bucky when I was much younger, but I remember him being the father of the geodesic dome. But
right.
One of my favorite quotes of Bucky's was just so simple but so profound. And John, you'll love this too.
I want to hear this.
The opposite of nature is impossible. I mean, that really sums up a life of deep thought and insight.
Right.
You can see out of the co-hosts here who's the smart one and who's just the big talker. Okay?
I'm starting to get it. Yes.
The truth is out finally.
Stop. Come on.
Hey, Elizabeth, this is just, honestly, we could spend hours with you here today because all the semifinalists that I've read about are all deserving, quite frankly. And
they really are, yep.
And your work is just amazing. We're down to the last minute, unfortunately, though. And of course, you're always welcome back to keep spreading the great word of your challenge and of the Buckminster Fuller Institute. But have any pearls of wisdom to share with our listeners who not only are in the United States, but literally they're around the world? We track them on the iTunes network and everything, and they're in Shanghai and the UK. What would you like to share as we're going to sign off here in a minute or so?
Well, I think I'll take the inspiration of sharing another quote of Bucky's, because I think this is something that we draw inspiration from all the time, and he sort of really posed a challenge to people, to take seriously their own agency as an individual, to dedicate their creative genius on behalf of their other fellow humans. And he said, if success or failure of this planet and of human beings depended on how I am and what I do, how would I be? What would I do? And that's a question that he held for himself. He called himself guinea pig bee. He used his own life as an experiment to see what one individual could do on behalf of their fellow humans. And if you hold that question in your heart very seriously, and you will begin to find what you uniquely are here to do on behalf of your fellow humans. And he really felt that that's why we were all here. So.
Thank you. Elizabeth, thank you. And Mike and I are just so honored that we got some of your time today to share this great message for our listeners. Again, one more time, please go and see Elizabeth Thompson's and Buckminster Fuller Challenge that she's running over there as the executive director at http://challenge.bfi.org. Elizabeth Thompson, you are truly a wonderful and visionary leader, and you are living proof that green is good.